ABS plastering Mildura. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut an internal miter on a length of cornice and to put a piece of cornice up and clean it off. So what is an internal miter? Well, I've got a bit of a diagram here, and an internal corner is the inside edge of a room or an inside corner. So we have this corner here, 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 and here, which are all inside corners, or what we know them as is an internal corner. A little bit later down the track we'll do another video on cutting an external miter on a piece of cornice and installing that as well. And an external corner is this edge here, that edge there, and that edge there. So internal meaning inside, this one. External, which is outside, which are these ones. So in this room that we're cutting the corners in, we have internal here and an internal here. As you see, there's no outside edge, they're all an inside edge, which pretty much forms a box. And the room that I am doing today is a box. So very straightforward. We'll be cutting 4 miters on 4 lengths of cornice, and I'll explain how to cut it in the box, and then we'll show you how to install the cornice and clean it off and finish the job. Tools required to put up cornice from left to right. We have a cornice miter box. This is what we use to get the miters correct on our cornice. Obviously you need the saw to cut the cornice, tape measure to measure the cornice on the ceiling, and also to measure the cornice when cutting, a pencil so you can mark your cornice and also write down your measurements, a trowel which we use to put our mud on, or you can also use a hawk, which we don't have shown here, a 3-inch plaster stripper. This has like an angled edge on this particular one, which is on second from the right, and that's used for cleaning off the cornice, taking off the mud on the top and bottom, and also doing the miter angles later on down the track. And then you need your 6-inch stripper, and that 6 inches just to apply the cornice adhesive onto the cornice so we can stick it on our ceiling. So when you measure cornice, you put your tape in just a little bit below where the cornice sits. On your tape along, can't do it by yourself, get an assistant. And just at the point there we get our measurement, and we take 1 mil off. So our type measurement here is 34.55, and if we take 1 mil off it'll be 34.54. Once you've got your measurement, you just write it down. So we got 34.54 just there. And you just continue that around the whole room. So here we got our miter box. Now you can see on the miter box here we got all these different cuts. Okay, each cut represents a miter that to cut in a bit of cornice. Today the cuts that we're going to be focusing on is this one here and this one here. And they're our 90-degree angle cuts. So when we put our saw in, we have one in this direction, and then we have one in that direction. So you get a piece of cornice that you need to cut. And when you set it in your box, you'll notice that there's these little grooves in the box here. So if you turn it over, so you have a look, we've got like a groove here, a groove there, and a groove here. But also you'll probably see up here there's more grooves. Alright, and so you turn around the other way, you can see those are the grooves as well. So some boxes, this one in particular, if we have a look closely, give it a bit of a rub. It actually has the profile of the cornice on there. So if we have a look here. So up here we got the 100mm, which is this top line here. And then we have the 90mm cornice profile, where the edge will sit on this line here. Then we have 75, 65 and 55. 65 we don't really use it anymore. It's like an old profile that we don't have. And also on this particular box, which is a wallboard miter box, okay, it actually has some diagrams on where the cornice sits on the back. So the cornice that we're using at the moment is what's called cove or scotia, or just plain. So this is what we're using here, and the size we're using today is a 55mm profile. So when we sit the cornice in the box, the bottom edge of the cornice needs to sit on the corresponding lip of what we're cutting. So we're cutting 55 today. 55 is this bottom one here. We set it in like so, and then it just gives the profile on the box, and we can see where we're cutting and whatnot. To start off with, we need to line up our cornice with the miter that we need. So we're doing 90-degree internal miters. So we need to line it up with this miter here. So if we sit our saw in there, the angle of the saw needs to be coming in towards the piece of cornice that you need to measure. Okay, and then obviously the handle of the saw is coming towards yourself when you're cutting, and cuts inwards. Hence why it's called an internal corner. It's an inside edge. When we cut an inside edge, we're cutting in towards us. Run the saw down, sorry, and cut our miter. And if you have a look at the miter that we just cut, it's long at the top and then it's short at the bottom. So I'll explain this a little bit after. And to make things even more confusing, the top of the cornice sits on the bottom of the box, and the bottom of the cornice line sits at the top of the boxes, which is where we cut. A little bit confusing, I know, and this is why people get frustrated with cutting cornice. Start again. So we cut our cornice. We just need to get the cornice up to the end of the box, just a little bit. And we sit our tape here on the end of the cornice. We run it down until you get to the required measurement that you need. You either pull the tape or push the cornice through. And the measurement that we need for this piece is 46.71. So we come to 46, we get 71, and we mark the top of the cornice. There's just a bit of a line. And then because we're cutting inwards, we'll do a line facing in towards the cornice. So that's just a healthy reminder that we're cutting an inside edge on the cornice, or an internal miter. This will come handy a little bit later on down the track when you cut other miters, such as a external miter. And then get the miter box, sit the cornice in. As you can see, I marked just here, just there. We need to line it up with the closest edge in our miter box, in the same direction with that coming in towards the box. Because it's an internal corner, we cut in towards the piece that we require. So we get our saw, in the correct miter, and then we cut. Always ensure before you cut your miter that the cornice is sitting in the box correctly as well. Because if the cornice is sitting in the wrong slot, as you can see, it's a little low. Only that one there is a common problem. The cornice will be too flat in the box and your miter will be incorrect. As soon as you cut your piece of cornice, flip it around, and then just mark what the measurement was that you cut. So for this piece we cut a 46.71, so we'll write down 4671, and then we will know which piece it is and where it goes, from where we've marked on the wall previously. Once you finish cutting your cornice and you've got it sitting in your pile, ready to go on the ceiling, we need to then prepare to put out our cornice. And what I generally do is I do a quick test miter, and I'll go around the room and I'll set it up on the corners in the ceiling, and then do a mark. So to do a test miter, we need to cut 2 small pieces out of the off cut. Both having an internal edge on it, so we need a small piece. Okay, so we cut our first miter, which is the internal, and now we want this little bit here, so the other edge needs to be an internal as well. So, internal. Don't really want a too big a piece, only need a small bit. And then we have one test piece. Put the test piece aside, and then we cut another one. Again, we need an internal edge. Just ignore what this edge is. This is actually what the external corner looks like, but we're not going to do that today. So we're focusing on the inside corners. So all we do, we just sit the corners back in the box, get our saw, cut in towards us. I'll cut a new internal miter, that becomes an off cut, we get rid of it. run the cornice along, and again cut another internal corner. Not too big, it's nice and small. And for this you don't need to measure it, just do thereabouts. Okay, and we've got another internal piece. So with the internal pieces that you just cut, grab a pencil, and if you can't reach, grab a ladder. In this case I can't actually reach. Set it up on the ceiling. As I mentioned before, the long edge faces is on the bottom of the cornice and the short edge is at the top. So just get two together, join them up, and we need to manoeuvre the cornice. So we close that edge in the middle, so they're all nice and tight and lined up. Bottom lines up, top lines up. The top don't line up, don't worry too much. Just line up the bottom. So cut a bit of a gap because this means that the corner's not actually square. And we just do a line on the bottom. That line there then becomes our guide. And when we install our cornice, we sit the cornice on the line. And do these marks to each and every corner in the room that you've got to do. Now we've got a piece up here where it's a bit daggy, so what we need to do is grab our stripper, just knock it out, and then put our piece up. Now your room's all marked off and ready to install the cornice. We mix up our corn cement and we put the cornice up. What we got here is a bucket and our compound that we're going to be using. So for today we're going to be using cornice adhesive to apply cornice adhesive to some cornice that we're going to be putting up on this job. So with your bucket, you need to put in the required amount of water into your bucket. We only need a small amount, so we've only got about a third of a bucket, which will make a quarter of a bucket of compound. It generally works at a 50-50 ratio, so 50% water and 50% plaster. So to start off with, get our top type compound, full cornice adhesive, press. We pour it into our bucket so it forms a bit of a pyramid in the middle. We want that pyramid to come out just a little bit, say about 2 inches. And then just let it set for a little bit, a bit of a tap. And just let it sit for about a minute. After a minute, just give it a bit of a mix with your hand or with our beater, whichever you prefer. It's only a small mix, so I'm just using my hand. Now, after we start mixing, we'll get all the lumps out. If we lift that hand up, you can see it's just running like really loose. We don't want that because it'll just be too thin. Too much water in the mix, and the cornice adhesive won't actually stick to the cornice, and the cornice will come off the ceiling. So just add handfuls in at a time as we go. Sprinkle it around. I reckon I'll need to. And then just mix it in. The trick is to try and get it right the first time, because the more you mix and the more powder you put in, the more air you put into the mixture and the faster it goes off. So looking at the consistency now, and it's just staying on my hand but still oozing off a little bit. So we'll put one more handful in. So we get right down to the bottom, get all that compound on the sides, mix her in. Quick little check, and that's how we want it. We just want it so it's just dropping off from when we apply cornice. And that's how mix up some compound for cornice. We get the mud on our blade, or 6-inch, just so it's nice and flat like so. We run it along the edge of the cornice, kicking our blade outwards of the cornice, not inwards. Difference is, if you go outwards, you'll get a nice even bead along the cornice, like so. But if you come inwards, it'll end up going into the cornice and be all too flat, and it won't even stick. So we come outwards. Takes a little bit of practice. Practice makes perfect. Do both sides. Once you've glued up your cornice, you can grab your piece of cornice and line it up with the bottom of each of those lines that we did earlier, and then just place it up. Apply a little bit of pressure, not too much so you push all that mud out. Once you get the cornice up, don't move around too much. That's the whole idea of having those lines, to give you a bit of a guide. And try not to get too much mud all over the face of the cornice itself. Otherwise it just makes it a little bit difficult to clean a little bit later. Our suction will hold that on, and that's how we glue it up. Okay, so we get our next piece, a little bit of mud on our fork or trowel, and we glue up the edges like we did before. Ensuring that you have a nice even amount on the cornice, and then, as I mentioned before, always kick the blade outwards when you mud up. So this technique of mudding up the corners with the trowel probably a little bit slow for some, especially for us professionals. We can actually use the trowel itself to mud the cornice rather than the 6-inch stripper. When you got that first piece up, determine on which direction you're going to go. So in this case we're actually going a anti-clockwise direction. Get a little bit of mud on your 3-inch tool, just on the corner like so, and then just apply a little bit in that corner, which will help glue the other piece together and strengthen up that corner. So you get the next piece of cornice, spread your arms out across the cornice, especially for these longer lengths. You don't want it to fling backwards and snap. Sit the bottom edge of the cornice in the bottom of that first piece and just flick it over and sit it up like so. Kind of need to be a bit quick sometimes. So in some cases we do get a bit of a bow in the ceiling or a gap in the cornice. So I've already got one nail in to hold it, but sometimes we need a couple of nails just to support our cornice from falling, just where it's bowed out. Just mainly just here in the middle that gets stuck, and over at the end. And then any gaps, we'll just quickly fill them in. We'll continue the process of mudding up the cornice, putting it up until we finish all the lengths that we need to put up. The next model, we get a bit more cornice cement on the end of our 3-inch and fill it in the same as we did before. And then just clean it off across the top. And any bags that we got on a piece of cornice, and put it up, just quickly clean it off. Makes it a little easier. Piece, you line up both miters, and we're going to squeeze the last bit of cornice in. this last piece is going to be pretty difficult because by myself and two, got to kind of squeeze it in, but because it's by myself, put it half up, come along, and then hold it a little bit out, and then squeeze it in like that. Lining up the bottoms so they're nice and beautiful. Give us the design. The next step is to clean off the cornice. So to do that, we use this. If you have a look at the stripper, you've got a short edge and a long edge on the 3-inch. All I use is the short edge, and what I do is I cut in underneath the cornice. So I kick my wrist up a little bit and have it kind of on a bit of an angle, and I bring the stripper through underneath the cornice, cutting the bead. And I do that to the top and bottom. And put the excess back on your trowel or your hook, whatever you're using to hold them on. Once I've cut the cornice bead off, I then, using the same edge, and then my finger up on the top to apply a little bit of pressure. We run it along the bottom as flat to the cornice as we can. This is what's called straight stopping. And then you might get a little bit of a crappy edge on it afterwards, so we just hold the stripper nice and flat, slight angle, and this takes a lot of practice. And just take off that excess there. And you might get a little bit of that burr, like the bead up a bit, so just run it through again. You do that to the top and bottom. Clean off the whole entire room, and then we'll come back to the miters. At the same time, we'll just clean up the cornice a little bit, make it a little bit easier. Once it's all cleaned off, we'll then clean off our miters. So what I generally do is I run my blade up on the side, I cut that little excess bit off, and I just run it down a little bit there, and then again underneath the bottom, just nice and lightly, and cut that off. And then what we do then is just get whatever left is there and bring it up on an angle using the long point on the stripper there on the 3-inch. If there's not enough mud, just apply a little bit of mud to your 3-inch, run it up on the side along the edge and fill that in. And then we go underneath, fill in the bottom, and of course a little bit up there on the top. So once you filled it in, clean off your 3-inch, a little bit of pressure on one side using the pointy end, and just bring it down along the edge there and feather off the edges. And again, and then we'll come up again on the bottom, bring it up so it's all nice and neat. Any excess, just lightly feather it off. Now we just come up top and just bring it down. If it doesn't fill in properly, we'll do it again. And then the same for the bottom. Just bring it across both sides. And there we go. And you do that for all 4 miters, just before the mud dries. and put the cornice up as well and finish off the edges. So next what we're going to do now is we're going to sponge the edges and sponge down the face of the cornice, and that pretty much concludes this video. So we got a clean bucket of water to clean off the rest of the cornice, and a sponge. This sponge is an old foam bed. You can also use like an old car sponge, or just any pretty much sponge you can use. If there's a nice generous amount of water on the sponge, bring it out a little bit so you're not dripping, completely dripping. And into this little obstacle. I generally start with my face. Get all that excess plaster off. Have a little bit of pressure, but not too much, because if you go too much, it will go black. We don't want it to go black. We go into the internal corner itself, and then we go along our edges, top and bottom. Ensuring that you don't take too much plaster off. It's best to actually do this as the mud sets, or after it's just set. That way you don't take too much mud off. There you have it, nice clean bit of cornice. Well, this concludes our tutorial on installing cornice. So today we covered what an internal miter was, how to cut an internal miter in a piece of cornice, how to mud up the cornice to install on the ceiling, and how to clean off the cornice edges and the miters for the finished look. My name's John, I'm from JS Plastering Mildura, and I'd like to thank you all for watching.